got an aerial view of heaven. Can you
Hello everyone, welcome to Christian Plus. This man was confirmed clinically dead more than 11 hours. Guess what? His consciousness was transported to the glory of heaven. Watch how he describes his experience in heaven.
An aerial view of heaven. Can you tell us about that?
People ask me, did you see your family, or because my dad died when I was 2? And I said no, and I said I didn't realize it at the time, but I realize now you can't step on the ground of heaven and ever come back out. Once you go through the second veil, you don't come back out. The guardian asked me to hold his cloak, and I held it, and suddenly we're above. He made a motion, and I thought at first it was a reflecting pool, but then it opened up, and I'm looking at heaven. And so he's flying, and I'm hanging on.
Wow.
And I get this aerial view of heaven, which was video games a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
And but again, he knew that the focal point for me as a pilot was I was used to looking at the ground from 30,000 feet or less. And so I'm shown how the city of heaven is laid out, and the size of it, and the enormity of it, and the citizens of it. And I have to tell you this, and my vision had changed. I had almost like an omnivision, and I could focus on the mountains of heaven and see the petals on a flower, or look back down and see the face of someone. As people say, well, that sounds confusing. It was no worse than texting and watching TV.
Yeah.
It was second nature. And we see all these magnificent buildings, but I have to tell you quickly this one thing, because so many women have come up to me crying to tell me that it gave her hope. And what I saw was not just the halls of learning, the halls of music, the halls of records, the halls of healing. I said, why would you need a hall of healing in heaven? He said, James, many times people come to us very quickly, as you did, in tragic circumstances. And we need a period of reflection and healing for their soul to understand what happened and what happens next. And that they are cared for and they are loved and they're to their forever home. And so it was just amazing to see that. It really was.
There was one particular building that stood out.
It had a kind of a pink and blue aura to the building is not stone, it's carved from light. Everything is light in heaven. There was this light that gently faded and went back and forth in it, and it was pink and blue and gold. And I said to the guardian, what's this building? And he said, that, James, is the nursery. And I said, nursery in heaven? And he said, yes, this is where the souls of aborted children, or children who have died at birth or in their innocence through disease or accident. And those little souls are precious to God.
Or even miscarriages.
And miscarriages.
Because you
Absolutely.
said that the soul is created at the time of conception.
Yes.
That there's a light that comes from God into that eternal soul.
Exactly, exactly. And so that's gathered back, and I remember saying this to the guardian. I said, are they like children on earth? And he looked at me with this little smile. Oh, yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. Are they still like babies?
A lot of work. Did he tell you that they mature faster in heaven?
They do, because, and then he went on to explain that because they're not growing a human body, they're growing a body of light. They age at 3 times, a factor of 3 times. So a child that would be 2 on earth would be 6 in heaven. Wow. At 3, they're 9. Then you join the general populace of heaven and your family. And your family can be with you when you're in the nursery. But here's an amazing thing. No, everyone in heaven looked to me, with a few exceptions, to be in their early 30s. And the guardian said, yes, James, no one in heaven is any older than Jesus was when he died at 33.
So good, 33.
So I don't know about you, but, well, you don't have to worry. You were young. But I'm looking forward to being 33 again.
Yeah, it's not age.
But isn't that beautiful?
When the guardian told you about the nursery, that the Lord allowed you to feel some of the love he had for those children and for every eternal soul, that everyone was important to him.
Yes. The most incredible thing is this feeling. Your intellect tells you that this can't be right, but your soul tells you it is. What I mean by that is, I felt when Jesus looked at me, I felt like I was the only one he'd ever created. It was that personal moment. And you'll feel it. You'll all feel it.
I can't wait.
And he knew me, knew everything about me. He'd already decided I was going to be saved from hell. But I thought I was still being allowed to stay, you know. So I mean, I'm elated. This is, because I had the strangest feeling that I had come home.
Yeah.
I was home.
Yeah.
And although I loved my family and my wife and so on, and yet to me it felt like it was only going to be about a couple of hours, and they're going to be with me.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
You felt like in a couple
eternity
hours.
time.
Okay, so let's jump ahead to where, I guess, I don't know if it was your guardian or if it was the angel that had the full armor on, pulled something out of their garment and was reading it to someone. So tell us what happened there.
Okay, so while I was watching the horses, I looked for the guardian, and I turned, and just maybe 50 feet away, there was a slight rise in the ground. And up on that rise was the angel, and he was in a kneeling position, and he was holding a little slim book in his hands, no bigger than a cheap roadside menu. He was holding it like this. And for the first time, I saw another figure standing facing the angel who was bent holding
Was
the
he
book.
reading what was on the pages?
Well, I couldn't tell at the time because the face, it was in profile to me. The face was covered like you see the shimmer on a hot day on a Texas road. There was a shimmer on the face. But clearly there was something extraordinary about this new creature, because there was like a golden light that flowed from the top down all sides of his body. It behaved like slow-moving gold water, but it was light, but it had the substance of water. And because he was on a rise, it was coming down and flowing down toward me, this golden light off the body. And I noticed something wonderful. Although the flowers were incredibly beautiful, wherever that golden water touched them, they bloomed again, even more beautiful and larger again. And I watched in amazement as it came down and pooled around my feet. And it was at that moment that the guardian looked at me with those violet eyes, holding the book up, and he said to me, "James, what did you do with the life my master gave you?" And I had no answer. With all the resources that I had and all the kindness I could have done, I gave to charity if I got a tax receipt. I could have done so much more, but I was completely involved in myself and my own ego.
Were you sad that you didn't have more on your pages?
Oh, I mean, the book was like a cheap roadside diner menu, and I couldn't believe this was all. I thought I had lived the life that was the epitome of the American-Canadian dream.
Yeah.
Wealth sufficient to do anything I wanted, a fleet of British sports cars, large boat, airplanes, horses, beautiful wife. I mean, how does it get any better? But you know something? I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd say to myself, is this all there is? And I thought I needed a newer car. Or a newer plane. And I'd go out and I'd buy them the next day. Didn't help. What I was missing was God.